What's going on, everyone? My name's Tenebris Infinite, and welcome back to another guide here in Nightingale. After putting up my build video on how to make the ultimate refining setup, a lot of people were asking what my crafting setup was. And so I thought today, let's not just show my crafting setup, but bring it to the next level, and make the ultimate crafting station here in Nightingale. One where we could craft anything in the game at a moment's notice. Keeping costs as low as possible, today I'll show you how to have the optimal setup for crafting everything from tools, to guns, to clothing. But really quickly, before we get into the build, we have some house cleaning to do. You might be in a similar scenario as me where you're running out of augments to place down in your world. So first, let's show how to get your augment count back down. This sadly doesn't fix the counter, but it does free up a ton of space in your abeyance room. First thing you'll want to do is clear up any augments, crafting stations, or lights that you aren't using anymore. Then you'll want to head to any of the points of interest across your map and smash anything that has a name. These are taking up useless augment space, and will give you some free materials too. These are only the named objects, so ammo containers don't count. Which means we're finally taking our sticks and stones back from Wilhelmina. Sadly, she does not count as an augment slot. Then lastly, you might want to look at your storage and see if you have any unnecessary objects like tables or shelves that you could do away with. And I think this even looks nicer than having a row of crude tables. Okay, so now that we have more augments to work with, let's get to the build space we'll be using today. Just like with the last guide on refining stations, this isn't a full-on build guide, but following the layout will be essential to setting up a good crafting area. We'll start with the foundation, which will be an interior foundation of 3x5, and then surrounding that with wood foundation, leaving a gap in the middle for stairs into the building. We need the 3x5 area so we can make 3 crafting rooms, and then have some space for a realmic transmuter and storage. The balcony is just to have somewhere to chill with a view while the crafting happens. Alright, so let's move on to placing in our walls and making those individual rooms. We're going to go with the pagoda set as per usual, and we're going to use the geometric windows first. We'll place 2 walls on the long side and 1 on the width, leaving gaps that will act as doors to the outside. Then on the inside, we'll place 2 more solid walls on each of the rooms we'll be making. Then we'll place our stairs leading in. And at this point, your build should be coming along like this. Though again, you can use any building style that works for you, whether it's crude or Tudor, or even more expensive with Bhutan. But the main point is having these 3 small 1x2 rooms. They'll serve as each crafting room. Now we'll line the outside with pavilion walls matching our previous build, and then place in a doorway. With the exterior complete, let's move on to finishing the interior. We'll place doors to each of the rooms, capping them off. Then for where we'll place the transmuter, we'll take a Tudor support post and place it in. It will serve as a support for the roof supports that we'll place in later. Then to act as pseudo door frames, we'll slap in a few more supports on each of the exits to the balcony. To finish off the space for the transmuter, we'll place in a pavilion wall. Then we'll add in a second layer of walls around the outside. Then solid walls for the inside. Now to support the roof, we'll place down half gables and our final set of walls. So for this top layer, we added walls for the roofs to connect to. Then we added the upper peak where we'll place the rest of the roof and cap off the build. We'll start by placing in the corners, then connecting them with slanted roofs. If you've followed along so far, placing in this roof should be very easy as everything will be supported by the structure. And for the peak, we'll place in roof gables and the roof peak itself to finish it off. And this is what you should roughly wind up with. Though, again, you can have whatever you'd like for a structure, just make sure that you have those small individual rooms set up for the next part. Though, this is a nice spot for doing the crafting, matching our previous build but with its own twists, and the synergy of having our refining stuff and crafting stuff nearby will be huge in the long run. So now for the most important part, the crafting rooms and the augments they should have. For each room, you'll want a campfire setup. This is purely to give the warm buff while crafting, shaving off 10 seconds, which when stacked with well lit and sheltered gives 30 seconds off an individual item's time. Then you'll want your crafting table and a light source. First augment we'll place down is the crude tea set, then we'll place the Pteridomania pot, and then the saddle rack, then a grindstone, which seems to be the most essential augment in Nightingale. Then we'll place a simple ammo box, a gramophone, and last but not least, a sundial. Now, I know this might look like the most eclectic collection of stuff of all time here, but this lets you craft the lantern, maul, sickle, watering can, spyglass, and all the guns. As well, all knives and axes you craft, so the sickle, for example, will have melee damage plus, and all guns you craft will have crit damage plus, which is huge. And just in case you haven't seen it, a pinned comment will have all the materials and locations for these augments. Then for crafting room number 2, we'll again start with a campfire, crafting table, and light source. I like the standing candles myself as there's 2 types to vary it up. We'll place another grindstone, then a fishing trap, a formula board. It's tough, but preferably without the paper clipping through. Then a simple map, an open toolbox, a blasting machine, though you could go with a mining cradle to cut costs if you'd like. And then lastly, a simple drinking horn. Again, a kind of strange setup, but this will let you craft the climbing picks, fishing rod, hammer, hunting knife, maul, mining pick, umbrella, axe, and axe pick. Picks get durability plus, and all axes and knives get melee damage plus, which I have yet to test, but might wind up making a really awesome axe pick here. And for the final randomly assorted list of items today, the all-in-one clothing crafting station. For this, we shall yet again start with a campfire, the sewing table, and a light source, but this time we'll place a table behind the sewing bench. We'll place down the macabre rack first, then a fishing trap, a crude tea set, then a vial display, an open toolbox, a Pteridomania pot, a simple map, we're almost done here, a drinking horn, a training dummy facing the right way, and then last but not least, a coat rack. And boom! This crazy setup will let you craft the full Calcularian set, Druidic set, Explorer set, Hermetic set, NTTC set, Scout set, Simple, Stirrup set, Trapper set, and all extra clothing so far, like the Laboratorist hat and the embellished head wrap and stuff like that. And on top of that, we'll give extra durability plus, predator hides give health regen plus, max stamina plus, and stealth plus, an encumbrance plus buff, rain resist buff, and also boots have max health plus. Just crazy. If there's a better setup for crafting out there, let me know, but I think this is the crafting station to end all crafting stations, at least for now in Nightingale. So now in the corner of the open room we made, we'll place a Realmic transmuter. And because I feel like just going ham on this, we'll put together a small storage station I set up that I think is the best looking one I've made so far. Setting this up is real simple and looks great. It's kind of funny because I avoided the dresser in my storage video from earlier this week, but we'll start with the dresser here. Then we'll place in footed chests from the bottom, raising them as high as they can go each time. The dresser acts as a constant support through the build, so as long as we keep the footed chests accessible, we can stack them as high as the dresser goes. But we'll stop before the top so the dresser itself is still easy to access. To keep things in line and symmetrical, use the grid on the blueprints to line up the footed chest before you start placing them. Then just use R and scroll wheel until you've placed in 5 chests. At the end, you'll have a neat stack of chests and 325 slots of storage, all in the space of one single dresser. It's easiest to access from the bottom upwards, and you'll probably want to name these chests to keep them organized. So before we wrap up here, a reminder that all the crafting materials and augments needed will be listed down below, alongside their respective trader. And in the description, I have a write-up of every card's effect on crafting. There is a ton to go through, so look for which card is best suited for what you plan to craft, be it high damage melee weapons or high magic clothing. But there you have it, the best crafting setup in the game, allowing you to craft anything at a moment's notice, producing the best clothes you can at this point of the game with all applicable buffs, a great build to keep them in, and storage for all of your crafting needs. Who says I don't hook you dudes up when you ask for something? But for real, if you've been watching along so far, thank you so much for the support. And I will catch you all in the next one. Until then, peace.